Having hit the age of 77, even though I don't feel that, or I have to look in the mirror and go, or look at my wife and go, do I really think that way? It's, and I was sharing with Jim, people tell me I've got a lot of stories. So we connected with Bowie. As I mentioned earlier, I knew Jane before I knew her husband. You told me not to mention your name. So I knew Jane before I knew her husband, because we were boot camp junkies at the CA, Columbia Association, for, we say, Jane, about maybe 10, 15 years, at least 10 years, maybe 15. And getting up at 6 a.m. in the morning, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, doing boot camp and calisthenics and all of that stuff. So many of the, we connect that way. Met Willie through his connection with the NAAAHR. I've been in Howard County for about 30 some odd years. And ran into Jim here, and we talked about way back. He told me he was connected with Bowie State College, now Bowie State University, the foundation. And I said, wow, this has been crazy this much. I've run into people that I've connected with, and now with Jim being with Bowie, and I had a quick flashback. Bowie back in 1968. I met my wife there in 1967, and as far as time-wise, we've celebrated this past August 53 years of marriage. So it lets me really put some data, right? Yeah. Well, I say my story was I came from a broken home, and when I met my wife at Bowie, I started off at Virginia Union, and I'll make this very brief. Didn't make it in Virginia Union because I ran out of money. Working at Bethlehem Steel down in Sparrows Point, and that in the Racks of Maryland days. And then I went to Bowie because Bowie was cheaper. And my last year at Bowie, working at Bethlehem Steel, Bowie was, back then, Jim, was $770 for his full tuition. And that really dated I really dated myself right there when I said that. That was room and board. And I had money in my pocket after that. But the joy of it, I met my wife. She was dating another guy, and I was talking to another girl. But hey, we connected, and that was in 1967. And 4 years later, we got married, and the rest is history on that end. But fast forward, AJ, and you don't mind me using your name a couple times in here, so ding me if you want. But AJ got me connected with this organization, the Love is the Answer movement, because in my story, it's a path that started out with the state police. I joined the state police back in 1969. I was the 10th African American to be in the Maryland State Police. I also got tired of that and went to Prince George's County for 3 years, thinking that I could get more money, and that was a big mistake, so I left there. And then I joined at Bowie. That's where I told Jim I was at Bowie when I got a bill passed, making sure that Bowie State College at the time was granted a full police force. So I was their first chief of police at Bowie. So when we talk about Love is the Answer and the law enforcement side of it, I can talk at least 3 different agencies: the state, the county, and also working at a institution. Marriott, I left the law enforcement and went into corporate America and went into Marriott. And when you talk about the story with J.W. Marriott, I trained, and the guy's name is John Dixon, was the general manager at the J.W. Marriott. And I was at Marriott corporate headquarters when that came through, that Marion Barry said, yes, you know Ronald Reagan, and we got that word on high, but I control the occupancy permits. So if you want to get that J.W. Marriott, when I look out and you look at the J.W. Marriott now, it's right across the street from City Hall. And Marion Barry told J.W. Marriott Senior, Mr. Marriott, if I look out that window, I want to know that there's an African-American general manager running that hotel. True story. And I was part of the training team to train John Dixon to be that first general manager at the Marriott J.W. there. So that's another little twist in terms of my story in there. But fast forward to, as it all connects. At the time, I finished my corporate career. Some of you that are state employees, I left the corporation, the state 17th largest credit union in the country. That was CQ, State Employees Credit Union. You probably heard of them. Well, I was their vice president of human resources. So when I joined them in 1995, it was $770 million. When I left, we were $1.3 billion. And there's two things that I left that credit union that are still in existence today. One is their 401k program that I implemented, so I figure, hey, if I leave, I gotta take my money and roll it over. Not that stupid. And then the other one was CQ University. I created that. So I can tell people when I talk about my story, the differences of knowledge that I have in various industries. And when I joined CQ, I also met with 11 other individuals from all over the country. We came together down in Walt Disney World in Orlando, and the 12 of us created the National Association of African Americans in Human Resources, NAAAHR. We are the largest African American HR organization in the country. We're now celebrating our 26th year, and we've been in existence for that time, and we have over 7,000 members. And yours truly is one of the co-founders, and I'm chairman of that. We did, and how we tie into Love is the Answer. After AJ launched his movie and his movement, we made a commitment. I met AJ and we sat down and talked about how can we as an organization help him move this forward. And I really was excited because we were up in Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's right next door to Ann Arbor. If you're ever going up to Michigan, Ypsilanti is a stepchild to Ann Arbor, you know, the big M. Anybody in Michigan State around here?
Okay.
University of Michigan. I couldn't say, you're Michigan State, East Lansing?
Taught there for
Okay,
10
taught
years.
there, so you're the Spartans, you know,
Yep.
down there, that's the big house. So, and they got the Eagle to go with it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, oh yeah, Michigan has the Eagle. But we were asked by the Travel and Tourism Bureau to have our conference in Ypsilanti. And about maybe a year before that, we signed on with AJ. AJ and I sat down and talked about the Love is the Answer movement and also Walking While Black, Love is the Answer. And we were looking at places where we could put that program, that movement into a particular area. And so we met there and I said, we're gonna bring it to Ypsilanti. And I committed our organization and personally to give a 5-year, or as I told them again, like car salesmen, they don't tell you now you got the car for 5 years. They say, oh, you can finance it for 60 months. And that's what I told them. I said, I'm gonna give you a 60-month commitment personally to make a difference. And so, long story short, on that end, we got Ypsilanti to sign a universal licensing agreement to show that film. And how I had to convince the police chief of Ypsilanti and the sheriff of Washtenaw County to sign those agreements. I think I shared it with AJ in here. I walked in there to their offices, because we asked for an audience, to the police chief and to the sheriff. The police chief of Ypsilanti was a small town, about 20,000 people, and Washtenaw County was the bigger county like Howard County would be. And I shared with them, here's what we would love to do in your city and in your county. We wanna have the Love is the Answer movement, the film, the book, and then doing the work. And I had to do this presentation, and I could see it in their face. What does this guy in HR, because I've been in there a while, know about law enforcement? Because they were looking at me all reluctant. All right, yeah, here you go, spouting off. And I said, well, Chief and Sheriff, let me give you a little bit about my background. And I shared with them my state police, my Prince George's County Police, and my chief of police at Bowie State University, now Bowie College then. And I said, my undergrad is in law enforcement. I said, I've got 2 brother-in-laws that I recruited on the job, introduced them to my sisters, and now they're my brother-in-laws, my wife's sisters. And I said, on top of that, my undergrad is in law enforcement. I said, also, I'm an associate member of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And I said, Chief and Sheriff, there's not a doggone thing you can tell me about law enforcement that I don't know. And I dropped the mic. Boom. Guess what? they signed that agreement. And from then on, I said to Ypsilanti, I will come up here once a month for one solid week on my own dime to see this program take roots. Because if you throw a rock on the surface, it just skims. I wanted to dig deep. I said, now I'm gonna come up here once a month. And I said, I'm not even gonna fly up here, I'm gonna drive up here. It's 515 miles from my house to the Hyatt House in Ann Arbor. They said, well, it's gonna take you a long time. To drive up here, it's about 9.5 hours. I said, you don't know me, it takes me 7. I'm a lifetime member of the Maryland State Police Alumni Association.
There you go.
Membership has its privileges. So I told him that. I said, I'm gonna make that commitment to make sure that this program, the Love is the Answer movement, take root. And at the same time, you're gonna see up here that I'm gonna be a pleasant, persistent pest. I'm gonna be there every day, for one solid week. Long story short, I was making that pilgrimage from 2018 to 2020 before COVID hit. I was up there once a month for one solid week. You do the math. That's 24 months, one solid week. I got so much up there that I knew every street in there because I would drive up there because I wanted to take the entire tour. Didn't want to have a rental car, I got my own car. So when they told me, well, we're over here on Marshall Avenue, or we're over here on Michigan Avenue, I said, I know it well. I said, I'm an ex-trooper and a police officer. I said, I know the routes. What that did for me was give the organization, give AJ and the movement roots. We're gonna make sure that it happened. There was an organization up there called Educate Youth. Educate Youth was an organization, nonprofit, that serviced underprivileged children that basically had a reading level under a 3rd grade level. And my wife being an educator, I said, we've got to make a difference here. Long story short on that, Educate Youth now is part of our program. We got it so well entrenched into the Love is the Answer movement. We met with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell up there, who knew late Elijah Cummings. And we got a grant from Congresswoman Debbie Dingell to connect Educate Youth and the Love is the Answer movement. So as we speak today, Educate Youth and former mayor up there, Lois Richardson, are having their Love is the Answer Day as we speak today. As we speak. And when you look at some of those pictures that AJ has on his website, you'll see we had a fence painted, Love is the Answer, right there at the corner. So when you leave Ann Arbor and go to Washington, go to Ypsilanti on Michigan Avenue, right there at the V shape, there's a fence, and the owner has his barber shop and the beauty salon. AJ was up there. And we've had the organization paint a fence with Love is the Answer. That's the Love is the Answer triangle, right there, that triangle. And every time that we have a program or something, we go there to take a picture. Take the picture, but also keep the movement going. So we said, again in our close, NAAAHR, the National Association of African Americans and Human Resources, wherever AJ goes, and we're looking at now going into states like Massachusetts, we've got a chapter there. We're going into Rochester, New York, we got a chapter there. We're looking at here in Howard County, we've got a Maryland chapter here. So wherever he goes, I've committed our organization as being one of the founders and chairman of the board. I got a little bit of clout that I say, guess what, you've been voluntold. And you've been voluntold that we're gonna get involved. And AJ said this is gonna be a 30-year commitment. So I came in, I think I was around 72 or something like that. So I guess I gotta go to at least 102.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
so I'll keep that going.
You've been voluntold.
I've been voluntold. So my commitment is a personal one. You talk about that. We talked about that at the school, at Cradle Rock and Elkhorn. Hey, What I suggest that all of us, this, even though it's a smaller crowd, this is a movement. Get involved. I'm not one of these people, I used to tell my pastor, I'm not a sideline Christian. I get involved. I'm an activist. I get you moving. And being critical thinking, we've got to get this organization to where it is. AJ gave me the privilege of being one of the co-writers of his book, which I sincerely thank him for. It gave me the impetus to write my book that I'm still working on, but I'm now, thank goodness for artificial intelligence. Oh goodness, yes. It's helping me to write my book. Yeah, I'm one of these guys that, I'm not stuck in the old ways that we learned. So it's either Chat GPT, Copilot, or Gemini, so I'm working on all three of them. But the point is, get involved, folks. This is a movement that I feel, hey, as he said, love, learn, open, volunteer, and empower. Because one of the things I found out when I was traveling overseas working for another company, we Americans sometimes are very illiterate to other people's cultures. Very literate. And when I was over there at Lake Elkhorn, I saw all those beautiful flags up there. And I said to the principal, you got one torn down, fix it. Because I love this area here in Maryland, and I love Columbia and Howard County. We are the epitome of love. Jim Rouse, I had the pleasure of meeting him. He and his wife, Patty. My daughter and son went to school with Molly and Ed Norton, right here at Wild Lake. So there's a connection. And all through Jim Rouse's dream was what? Love. Through AJ's commitment, love. Learn, open up your hearts, and get off your arrears and get off your assets, and let's volunteer. So we can empower those sixth graders. Sixth graders. Because I can relate to that because I got a granddaughter that goes to Harper's Choice. She's there right now as a sixth grader. And my commitment to her, the same way with my commitment to my son-in-law and to my daughter, is to make sure that this movement is relevant when she is 21. She's 11 years old now. So that's another 10 years. I want this movement to be relevant and to a whole nother level when she is 21. Am I at the right old age of 88? Because I told her I will still be around to make sure that happens. So folks, it's not about us here. It's about the movement, making sure that we plant the seeds, that love is truly the answer for us and our children and our grandchildren, so we can have peace, love, and harmony for the years to come.